Hey y'all, it's Natalie Renee and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so I know this video is a little bit different than usual, but I really wanted to come on here and share y'all my surprise, drum roll, I have a new camera. Yes, I am taking this content creation, YouTube vlogger stuff to the next level, and I want to let y'all in on my new setup. Please disregard any grass cutting noises that you hear in the background. I have no idea when the grass cutting schedule is, but every time I set this camera up, homeboy is out there cutting the grass, so please disregard any noises you hear. But if you can't already tell by the title and the thumbnail of the video, I have the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Y'all, I have been wanting this camera literally for so long. Well, pretty much since I started my YouTube channel in January. You've probably seen this camera literally in every single content creator's hands, all of your faves, all of my faves, literally everybody has this camera. And I had to get my hands on it, so I did. Two main reasons why I wanted this camera, really. One of them is really simple. I just love new technology. I'm starting to develop a camera collection. I don't know, I have like 5 cameras. One of them doesn't work, but I will get it working. And then I wanted to get a camera kind of as like a motivation for me to continue working on my content, continue doing YouTube, and just kind of give me that extra push to keep on creating. Ever since I started my channel in January, I had done tons of research on what types of cameras typical YouTubers have, typical vloggers have, and I kind of came across a couple options, which was the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 at the top of the list. Then there also was the Sony ZV-1F, which is more beginner style mirrorless camera, as well as the Sony ZV-E10. Ultimately, I decided on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 due to price, features, and a lot of reviews that I saw about some of the Sony cameras not having good battery life. I was also drawn to how small and compact this camera is. If I take off this little mini tripod, this is how small the DJI is, and this is my hand. Now I also would like to compare the DJI to a typical Polaroid camera. Hold on. This is my Instax Mini 40 Polaroid camera, and this is the DJI right next to her. So as you can see, super small, fits in my hand. I can hold the whole thing like this, fits in your purse, fits in your pocket. Like literally DJI Osmo Pocket 3. The name speaks for itself. Y'all didn't come for all that background, so let's actually get into the camera herself, or itself. So as you may or may not know, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is literally completely sold out online, at least right now, and has had a serious price increase within the past 2 months. I got my camera at Costco, and it came with the camera itself, this little bottom piece. It also came with this mini tripod, as well as a battery handle, which looks pretty similar to this, and it also comes with a micro SD card, which is already in my camera, as well as the case. Also, this is not meant to be an aesthetic unboxing at all, so let's just get into it. I'm going to show you the box. This is how it came, and it also has kind of like the specs down here of what it comes with, as well as the bag, and it says Osmo Pocket 3, protective cover, battery handle with 1/4 inch thread, mini tripod, micro SD card, wrist strap, the cable, as well as a lot of manuals. But I already opened the camera, so we're not getting any aesthetic unboxings and unpeelings and unpackaging in this particular video. So here is the camera in all of her beauty. You simply turn the camera on by sliding the screen over horizontally, and then to turn it off, you slide it vertically, just like this. Hi, camera. And you turn it off the same way, you just slide it back, and she's off. So a few features that I really enjoy about this camera, which are most likely the most popular features of the camera. For starters, it's the 3-axis gimbal stabilization. I have the camera facing me, so you can't see the screen, but if you're paying attention to kind of how the camera moves with how I'm moving the camera, when I'm looking at the screen, it literally is the same. Like the camera's not moving side to side, and I'll make sure to show y'all what I mean by this, because I'm just moving the camera side to side, but nothing actually is happening. This video that I literally am taking right now I'm putting the exact same video on the screen. I'm literally tilting back and forth and back and forth, and you can barely see some of that tilt on here, which is one of my most favorite features. I also like that the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 has auto face tracking, as well as multiple gimbal settings for your desired look. So just how I was going back and forth with the gimbal, it has multiple different gimbal settings, which I will get into later when I fully demo the camera. A couple more features I personally like are the multiple color modes. Well, there's three. I really only use two. One of them is in normal, which I'm going to show right now. And then the other one is D-Log-M, which is a super desaturated color space. So that way you can color grade your film and turn it into whatever looks that you want. So some people like to go for more cinematic, more movie style. Some people like just different types of feels. Whatever feel you want for your video that you're taking, you can really do with D-Log-M. I've played around a little bit with D-Log-M. Honestly, I just throw a LUT on there, which is called a lookup table, which basically is like a filter. I just throw the LUT that comes with DJI Osmo Pocket, like the DJI website, to kind of transfer D-Log-M footage back to the regular typical color space that we see with our eyes. And the reason why a lot of creators use D-Log-M, especially creators of color or of deeper skin tones, is that the D-Log-M setting can really pick up more richness in the skin tones, whereas the normal mode tends to kind of wash people out. I may or may not put a video example of this in because I haven't played around too much with it, but I do really like the feature of the different focus modes. There is single focus, continuous, as well as I think product showcase. So if you're a beauty YouTuber and beauty whatever content creator and you're like holding stuff up to the camera, it can focus on the product and kind of blur everything else out. Whereas I just like to use continuous because whatever is in the field of the frame is getting focused on and nothing's getting left out. I personally also really appreciate this other feature. It's not necessary at all, but if you're a person who's into having grid lines to make sure that things are in the right space in your camera, the grid lines are really helpful. It's just the normal grid lines, but there also are grid lines for a more like cinematic, like the movie where you have the block on top and bottom. I obviously will already have the side by side of what I'm talking about, but over the weekend I was experimenting with a little bit of like cinematic movie making, and I was just recording with the grid lines to make sure that everything was still in frame and in focus. And I really did like that the grid lines were there, because then when I went and edited and post, it just made sure that whatever I wanted to focus on was inside of the frame. To actually record on the camera is very simple. You just press the red record button and it turns it on. Also, I found out, be careful when you have your camera and you're putting different types of cases on it and throwing it in your bag, because for specifically the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, if the record button is pressed while the camera is off, the gimbal and the screen will try to rotate and do that whole thing, which causes you some internal errors, and you don't want to have to factory reset or send your camera in. So if you have that, just be very cognizant of the record button, because I found that out and nothing's wrong with my camera, but it did scare me a little bit. And then for the other little components that come with the camera, the mini tripod, super simple. You just screw it in and it doesn't sit up very high, but it is very stable. Your camera's not going to be wobbly, neither is your video. And then this little block right here, once you plug that into your camera, it allows you to mount it onto a tripod. That's what the little screw is for, and it literally has fit on all the tripods that I have. I think it's a universal type of fit, so I really like the fact that both the battery handle and the little block have the tripod connection. And then this is the protective case that comes with the camera, which I like because, like I said before, if you're pressing the record button while your camera's off, your gimbal might move around and stuff. This particular case that comes with the camera also protects your buttons, so when you throw it, you can really throw it in your bag and nothing is happening to that camera. Now that we've unboxed and talked features, I would like to get into my personal settings. This part honestly is pretty simple and pretty short, and I spent the week playing around with it to get it down to the simplicity that I like. But essentially I keep everything on auto. It took me a little bit of time to adjust with auto and play around with different things like the exposure, white balance, and different things like that. I do understand the areas or the times in which you would want to manually set those things, and I think it works great for that purpose. But I personally feel that all of the settings I like to keep on auto except for a few, so I will get into those. So if you slide your camera up from the bottom, you have your like resolution space. I like to have my videos in 4K resolution at 30 frames per second. Some people recommend doing 24 or 25 frames per second if you're kind of do like that cinematic feel. It's just a little bit slower, I think. And then people say that if you want to slow a video down, that you should frame in 60 frames per second, so that way things are not grainy and extra clear. I played around with 24 and 25 over the weekend when I was shooting my little movie, and it was nice, but for typical like floating head videos and vlogs, I feel like I would just keep mine at 4K 30. Another setting that I have set to a specific number is my exposure. It technically is still on the auto tab, but I personally have set my EV to either 0.3 or 0.7 because I feel that lowering the exposure helps for deeper skin tones not to be super washed out. And then when it's like extremely bright outside, super duper sunny, I put mine at -1, and I felt that that really looked the best. There is also an accessory that I will talk about a little bit later that also helps with the exposure without having to adjust any of your exposure settings internally. And lastly, these two settings are found in the same area, but it's noise reduction and sharpness. I keep my sharpness at -2 and my noise reduction at -1. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really sure what a lot of them do because I haven't played around with numbers any lower or higher than -1 and 2 to see a huge difference. But I think that having the sharpness at -2 and the noise reduction at -1 helps it to not feel as like harsh. When I was playing around with it when I first got the camera, everything was on 0 and I felt like I could see every pore. Now, while that type of quality may be desired for some people, it is not for me. So I watched a couple videos and was able to kind of adjust my settings, and so I think sharpness -2, noise reduction -1 works the best for me. Those are my settings, really sweet and simple. Just like I said, everything else is on auto just to keep it nice and easy. So now let's get into this demo in comparison. I currently record on my iPhone 15 Plus. I do not have a Pro phone. I make sure I clean my camera literally every single time I record, and I record on back camera in 4K 60 frames per second. I'm recording on my iPhone right now. What I want to do right now is kind of have a side-by-side, same lighting, same position, same everything, so you all can see the comparison between the DJI and my phone. Okay, so here is, I am filming with my iPhone right on the right of me, and I'm filming with the DJI right on the left of me. I have them pretty much at the same level, at the same height. They're the same distance away from me. I'm sitting in a chair, and here is what it's looking like. So here is what my sound quality is on my iPhone, and here is what the sound quality is on the DJI. Now again, on both cameras, besides some of those settings that I talked about with the exposure, everything is pretty much the same. I have no color mode set on the DJI, and this is what it looks like. So as you can see, one thing I like a lot about the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is that there's way more wide frame, and I don't have a wide angle lens. I did not get the creator combo that comes with the wide angle lens. So this is just the DJI as it comes out of the box. Another thing I like is that I can see myself. So even though I have my iPhone right here, sometimes I take a mirror, make sure I'm in frame, or I have to, get up and make sure and look and see if I'm in frame. Whereas with the DJI, I can just look and I know that I'm in frame. I'm gonna start moving around with the DJI. Obviously, iPhone does not do that, so I have not included that clip here, but I'm just moving around side to side, and I have my DJI gimbal settings set to like follow, and this is essentially what it does, just back and forth follows you. I want to show you the different type of gimbal settings, and there are 4 or 5 gimbal settings if I'm not mistaken, but I know for sure the 3 that I feel are most useful is the follow one, which I already showed with the comparison, as well as FPV, and then FPV, I think perpendicular. I'm gonna read you what it says. In FPV mode, the camera rotates freely and follows device movement, which is suitable for creative shots. Gimbal mode FPV perpendicular, it says that the camera always keeps the same direction with the touchscreen, suitable for quickly capturing subjects directly facing the touchscreen. I personally feel that all 3 of them, although very different, can kind of get the same effect depending on how you hold your camera and how you record. Lastly, I want to get into just a few accessories that I have for my camera, which I just found from watching plenty of videos online similar to this one. One of those accessories is a secondary case. This case covers the gimbal and covers the camera. I feel that this one is more if you're a little bit more rough-handed, so that you're not like yanking the camera out of the protective case that it comes with. It is pretty thin, but it's sturdy, and you just like push and open and clamp it closed just like this. Super simple. The other accessory that is definitely not necessary whatsoever, but I'm super excited to use are ND filters, because the summer's coming up and it will be bright, and I don't want to be overexposed. I want my natural skin tone to show through the camera like it is in real life. And so ND filters look like this. They're basically these like magnetic little things that just attach right onto the camera. And I have different settings here. I have an ND16, ND64, ND256. The higher the number, the less exposed you will be in your film. So here is what it looks like when I have on ND16. Here is what it looks like when I have the ND64 filter on. And then here's what it looks like when I have the ND256 filter on. And all of these videos were taken at negative 0.3 EV, just to make sure that I'm not lowering the exposure way too much. Lastly, I feel like this does not necessarily have to do with the camera itself or unboxing or any of the features, but it does have to do with the color mode D-Log M. So as I said before, D-Log M is like a desaturated color space that allows for you to just play around with different colors and feels. And I just have two simple resources. One of them is the DJI LUT that takes your color from the D-Log M color space to Rec 709 color space, which is what we mostly see on all of our devices. And then the second one, I found this website that has a bunch of free LUTs to download. I've played around with some of them. They have black and white, they have hazy ones. They just have different types of feels. I put links to both of those LUTs down in the description box, so hopefully you find those helpful. But yes, again, the LUT is a lookup table, and that's something that is applied in post. So when you're editing in your CapCut or DaVinci Resolve or iMovie or anything like that, that's when you apply the LUT. So even though the D-Log M footage itself looks a little bit scary, it will come back to the right color once you apply these LUTs to it. Like I said before, this is not a usual video of mine, but if you've made it to the end, let me know in the comments whether you like the iPhone 15 Plus footage or the DJI footage more. And also let me know if you're another content creator so we can connect. Although I've only had my camera for a week, I'm so excited to play around with it more. My mom was telling me that I should take like a photography or videography class to understand some of like the more technical settings in here. So if I do that, I will be sure to let y'all know what I learned. But thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.